Hey y'all, Irix guy here, and I wanted to provide the ultimate green screen tutorial. Now this is the 2018 edition. Several of you asked, how I do it, what my setup's like. Can you show me your green screen editing workflow from start to finish? So that's what I'm going to do within this video. From turning the lights on for the green screen, you can see I've got a light there, I've got a light here, I've got a light there. This light I probably won't use for this particular green screen. It's called a ring light. But check this out. Alexa, turn on green screen.
Okay.
So you'll notice that by way of voice command, I turn my green screen on. And a lot of people may think, oh man, that's an unnecessary expense. But in reality, it's actually cool because I don't have to touch the lamps. For my studio, I've dialed everything in to create optimal results. So by using voice commands, I don't have to touch them. Now you can see right here behind Sean Coonery's cat food, there's one of my modules that I use to control the lights. Again, check the link within this video's description. Just look down below, expand the video's description, and you can find links to every piece of equipment that I'm going to mention during this green screen tutorial. So now that we've got our lights on, there's something I wanted to point out. So I've got the lights that I pointed out earlier, each side, and then this right here, which is referred to as a key light. So the important thing to know with a green screen, and I'm going to sit down right here. See how green that wall looks? You can see that black chair, how it's just got green. It doesn't have any shadows. That's what's important, because these two lights, they're serving the purpose of making that green wall look as well lit as possible. So those lights, they don't care about the subject that's sitting in the chair or standing beside the chair or something that's on the table. Their purpose is to make that green, that really nice and bright green like you're seeing right there. Now obviously, some people may have a better setup. You can see I've got a seam in my wall. But as you'll see, as we progress within this video, I'm able to key out that seam. So I didn't paint my entire wall, you can see, or ceiling rather. You can see the ceiling there. There's unpainted area. Let's see, I was getting a little out of focus there because I was shining on those bright lights. But I've got a series of, there we go. I've got a series of daylight white BR30 bulbs. Again, check the link within this video's description. You can find those. Had a cheap but certified electrician install those. So see, then that provides overall lighting for the room. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on the camera. But you'll notice here, this camera doesn't look like a standard camera. And in reality, it is. It's just in a cage that makes mounting the field monitor easy. It's in a cage that may better protect the camera if it's knocked over. This camera, it's not cheap, but it's not ultra expensive. On today's date, this being August of 2018, this is the camera and the lens that I would recommend. Check the link within this video's description. You can find it there. It's a Sony mirrorless camera, and it's a Zeiss lens. Now, again, looking at distance here, you can see I'm probably, from camera to wall, probably about 8 feet. So given my space, my studio space, I'm somewhat limited. I can't do full body green screen because my studio space is kind of tight, but you're about to see what I can do. So, setting up your green screen environment, if you have more room, the merrier, because you can do a lot more with your green screen than I can if you've got more space. But you may or may not want the cage, but you'll probably find that if you don't get the cage, putting a field monitor on it, and I'm going to go over here so I can get this glare off from the key light, putting a field monitor on it is probably going to annoy you having a second tripod to hold the field monitor. I do have a shotgun style mic on it, but right now I'm recording audio with lavalier mic, and you can find the lavalier mic and the lavalier mic recorder within this video's description as well. So for green screen type scenario, I'd probably do lavalier mic, but just out of best practice, I've got an affordable shotgun style mic that remains permanently attached to my camera. So now we're going to get ready to green screen. Something worth mentioning is that if you have a place that you use over and over for your green screen purposes, you may want to mark the carpet or the floor so you know exactly where to position those legs. It's just a time saver that, if you're using your camera outside of the studio too, when you bring it back to the studio, you can simply pop up your tripod, put the camera on top, and have a high degree of confidence that it may still be optimally aligned. Because again, every environment's going to differ. And the objective is to get that green wall behind you. And again, I would use a green painted wall versus fabric. Fabric can blow, or just even if there's not wind from an air conditioner or other sources, fabric can make the green screen effect look less than perfect. Again, check the link within this video's description because you can find the paint color and the type of paint that I used to paint this green wall. It was very affordable. Also within this video's description, if you're looking for a big Maine Coon cat. Now, Sean Cooner is one of a kind, but you can find where he's from within this video's description too. He's a great studio assistant. My personal assistant. If you've got windows in your studio area, the changing light throughout the day, maybe it's cloudy, maybe the clouds cause the brightness to change while you're filming. You may want to consider putting blackout curtains on your window to keep that consistent lighting. Consistent lighting is key because anytime the light changes in intensity, it's going to be something that's going to be something that will need to be corrected within post-production to make the video look as professional as possible. So that's the high-level things to be aware of. So again, just to recap before we start filming here, got a light on that side, got a light on that side, and I've got my key light, and the key light's what's going to light my face, but we're going to turn everything on. So now I'm going to switch my camera to the other hand. I'm going to turn on this camera. And it should already be optimally aligned because I keep it in this spot. I highly recommend this tripod. This tripod is super nice, easy to adjust. Now there's something I want to point out. You'll notice that I'm an f5.6 aperture. This lens is f2, but without going into all the technical discussion, if I was shooting at f2, if I moved forward or I moved backwards, the video could become, certain aspects of the video may briefly become out of focus. Whereas using an f5.6, I've got a wider, what's referred to as depth of field. So think of depth of field as if you're standing in a certain location, you can walk forward or you can walk backwards a certain amount of inches or feet. The larger the number, the larger that F number right there, which is f5.6, the more area one will have to walk forward or backwards. But keep in mind, the lower F number, such as f2, is going to provide better low light performance. So it's a matter of your environment and whether you're using autofocus or manual focus. In the past, with the mirrorless camera that I used manual focus, but this camera is so good with autofocus, I use autofocus. But even though I use autofocus, I still use f5.6 for my green screen versus f2. If I'm outside, I'll use f2 to create that blurred background. But with a green screen, I don't want a blurred background. I just want myself to stand out against the bright green wall. We're going to turn on our field monitor. It's already on. And I'm going to show you standing over here. So see, the field monitor is important because I can confirm where I am within, and actually I bumped it, so I need to move it. I can confirm where I am within the camera's field of view. I need to get a longer cable there. Yeah. My power cable's kind of short. So see right here, now I'm standing in front of the green wall, but check this out. When I zoom in, looking at my field monitor, you can see there's a little bit of room over my head. So now I move close, now it's cutting the top of my head off. Field monitor is important because you can confirm your alignment within the camera that's filming you. I think this video is going to be great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch my green screen camera on using this remote. I highly recommend this remote. Again, check the link within this video's description. You can find all of this equipment. So using the remote, I'm now going to turn on my camera, or I'm going to initiate recording on my camera. You can hear it had a reassuring audible bing. And see, now you can see I'm in front of the green screen. Got my little camcorder in my hand that I was using for the initial segment of this video. A few things you'll want to notice, and that is, again, because I'm using this field monitor, I can confirm I've just got a little bit of room above my head, and I'm towards one side of the screen. So if I move this out, obviously this arm's going to go off of outside of the camera's field of view. But see, I've got all this room where I can move left, I can move right. By this being a solid wall, that's painted and not a piece of fabric that's draped, I can move around and there's not going to be any blowing of fabric. So just a way to get a little bit of motion with your green screen. Another thing to be aware of, you'll notice that I'm wearing gray. I would stay away, obviously if you wear green, say I had a green shirt on or green sleeve, part of my body could disappear, because when we do the chroma keying piece, the green screening piece here in a minute, it would mix that with the the wall, and it would key out parts of my shirt. Colors that typically work best, I like dark grays, light grays, black. Black is always really good, make you really stand out against that green screen. But you can see now with this green screen, utilizing the setup that I just pointed all the components out within, how good this looks. At least I think it looks good. Now right now I've got my windows closed. It is a partially cloudy day. Something I failed to do and something I need to do is get a set of blackout curtains. And then that way when I'm filming, regardless of whether it's day or night, what the sunlight conditions may be, I can control the lighting within my studio at all times. Something else you'll probably notice now is that I'm looking at the camera. The initial part of this video, I was looking up. And that's because my field monitor is on top of the camera. Something you may want to consider doing, if you can't train yourself to look at the camera's lens, is position the field monitor very close to one side or the other, and that way it doesn't look like you're staring away from the audience. But the best rule of thumb, just look at the little brand on the top of the camera's lens. In this case, it's Zeiss. I'm just looking at Zeiss and I'm talking to Zeiss. Yo, what's up, Zeiss? How you doing? We're about to find out because we're going to edit this video. So this video, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop recording the green screen camera using this nifty remote, and then we're going to import this video into my video editing software. I'm going to show you what it looks like right out of the camera and how all of this combines. And this scenario is a little bit interesting because we used two video cameras. We used the very high-end camera and lens combo that we're filming this face on video segment with. And then we used the more modestly priced camcorder. It's still 4K. Got the job done, but it's not as high-end. We're going to stitch all this together. We're going to look at the lighting. We're going to look at adjustments. We're going to export. And then when you're watching this on YouTube, you saw all of these steps unfold. So here we go. So now I've imported everything from my 2 cameras and then also my professional lavalier microphone recorder. So you can see the camcorder, which is 4K, but it's not super duper high quality, but it's good for a B camera, a secondary camera like I used it within this tutorial. And I labeled it camcorder. My secondary camera, which is my best, is my Pro Studio camera. And I just labeled it Pro Studio camera. And then lavalier mic audio, that's the professional audio that I captured with my lavalier mic. Now it is important to mention that audio was being recorded by the camcorder and was also being recorded by the studio camera. But I only did that for reference. And you're about to see the step I'm about to perform here. That, look at that. That was cool. I love filming that clip. That airplane went right over my head. There I go. Jump down. Airplane goes over. And the airplane lands. So what we're going to do, click File, do New, do Project. And I'm going to entitle this Green Screen Tutorial, All Hardware, Software, and Steps Illustrated. I think that's a good description for what this video includes. So I'm going to hit OK, so I've got my new project. Now what I want to do is drag in the various components. But before I do, I want to match this audio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight my professional lavalier mic audio. I'm going to press Command key on my Mac. And now I've got camcorder and lavalier audio highlighted. With those both highlighted, you can see the yellow perimeter. I'm going to press Control key and click camcorder. And now I'm going to do synchronize clips. And I'll call this camcorder Pro Audio. And now now you can see that clip's been created. So what that is, that's the camcorder's audio, but also the professional lavalier audio, which is what I'm using to narrate this video. Now I'm going to click in this unused area right here. And we're going to do almost the same thing. We're going to hold down Command and select lavalier mic audio. And then while we're still holding Command, we're going to select Pro Studio Camera. And just to confirm, I scroll back up, yellow perimeter around the lavalier mic audio, yellow perimeter around the Pro Studio Camera. And now I'm going to press Control, I'm going to left mouse click, and I'm going to do synchronize clips. And I'll just call this Pro Studio Camera Lavalier Audio. So now I've got, and you'll see there's a lot of dead space because I did not stop recording on my lavalier mic when I was doing it earlier, so that's normal. So the first part of my tutorial is where I introduced it with the camcorder. We're going to drag that down into here. The next step is we're going to highlight it, and we're going to do clip, and we're going to do break apart clip items. Now, we can see here there was this dead air right here because I started my lavalier mic before I started my video recording on my camcorder. So we can go right here, we can do trim, blade all, and just cut this out. The next thing, this top row, you can see what's referred to as waveforms. That's the audio that camcorder captured. Obviously camcorder's audio is not as high quality as this Pro lavalier mic, like you can find within this video's description. So what we'll do is select camcorder clip, and then we'll go here to the speaker icon, and we will go to volume, and we'll send it all the way down. See, now it's 0. There's no volume from camcorder, leaving only the audio from the professional lavalier mic. The next step is select lavalier mic audio, and then you can see here there's this yellow and red. That means that the audio level is a little bit hot. So what you want to do is drag your volume just until that yellow disappears. Taking note of how many decibels. So I decreased it by 3.7 decibels. For consistency's sake, when we paste in our next part of audio and video, we're going to want to make sure that it's consistent volume, because I have not removed the lavalier mic from my shirt. I did not remove it for the camcorder portion, the pro camera portion, or this narration I'm performing right now while we're doing the software walkthrough. So the audio level should be consistent throughout this video because of that. And see, right here we're going to want to cut this out because I stopped camera recording, boom. And now we're just going to cut all this out, so trim blade, or blade all either. And now we're going to paste in the audio and video from our professional studio camera. You can see there's all this black area because I did not stop recording on my mic. That's just how I like to do things. So now we go right here. You can see the audio starts right there. So right before I start speaking, trim, blade all, delete this. And now, boom. Camcorder audio with professional lavalier mic audio, which is the first part of this tutorial. And then boom, we jump into this very high quality studio camera video with the same professional audio. So again, select this clip, do break apart, and we're going to want to mute the camera's internal audio, this case being the Pro Studio camera's internal audio. But even though it's a Pro Studio camera, it's not, the audio is not as good as this Pro lavalier mic. And for reference, let's go back to our lavalier mic audio. We did negative 3.7 decibels. So we're going to do the same here. You can drag or you can click on that and do 3.7. Since I did not change the placement of the lavalier mic on my shirt, you can see that adjusting this portion by 3.7 also removed the yellow and the red from the waveform just like it did in the other. The only difference here is that we jump from video source being camcorder to video source being my Pro Studio camera. I'm going to go to the end of this here, and we're going to, when I stop speaking, you can see that was the end of it. So then I'll do trim, blade all, cut that out. Now this is where we get into the green screening part. So just to recap, we've got a video at this point that is 15 minutes. Now obviously once I film this portion of the tutorial that I'm narrating now, it will be placed after the 15-minute mark so that all of this will make sense. When you're watching it on YouTube, it all came together. But now green screening, again, you can see, as I had previously mentioned, my green screen is very well lit. And you can see that within Final Cut Pro 10. See how bright that green is? See how I don't have a lot of shadows behind me? Stand at a distance, adjust your lighting. That's how I did my lighting, but adjust your lighting to minimize shadows, because shadows make chroma keying a little bit more challenging. So with this, the way everything's so well lit, and even though I do have that seam in my wall, let me show you how this chroma key works. So the first thing you do is highlight your clip. Then you go to this little icon here. I'm sorry, this one here. Looks like the two boxes. You do keying. You go to keyer, and you drag keyer on your clip. Now you can see here, even though I've dragged keyer on there, it's not 100% black. The objective is to make it 100% black. So how does one do that? Well, Final Cut Pro 10 makes it really simple. And again, check the link within this video's description, expand this video's description, and you can find links to both desktop and laptop computer recommendations, my recommendations for computers to run your Final Cut Pro 10 editing software. So all we do after selecting this clip, and you can see, scroll through this clip and see the light. It changes a little bit. You can see a little bit of throbbing on the left and right, but it's somewhat consistent. And those hot spots of light, they're actually created by my two lights that I had alongside the green screen. But if you had a window in your studio, light from the outdoors could also interfere. Any sort of intensity changes of lighting in your environment. That's why I love LEDs, because they don't really seem to flicker. Just keeping it consistent as possible. And it's worth mentioning my two umbrella lamps, they're not LEDs, but my key light is. So now what we'll do is we'll select this little icon right here. It looks like a film strip. And see where it says sample color? Click that and then drag. And go over here. Don't drag, but just click it and go over here. And now you'll see the little box. So just hold down your left mouse button and drag over that area. Now see, I got a lot of it, but I didn't get all of it. So now I'm going to do it again and do another box over here. Now look at that. So see, now when we scroll through our clip, we're looking for any areas where the lighting may change. And a change in lighting would be signified by seeing that wonkiness again. See, if you look real closely right there, you can see just a tiny little bit. And being a perfectionist that I am, I'm going to get that too. See, look at this. Now scrolling through with my finger, real slowly here, you're going to notice that that everything around me remains perfectly black. Also worth mentioning is that because I'm wearing gray, because I'm not wearing anything green or close to that color green, you can see that my outline, including my hair, the edges are very sharp. And that's what's important with a green screen, because if you don't have sharp edges, the green screen is not going to be, the effect is not going to be as convincing. Now the lighting here, in my opinion, is pretty good. The color of my shirt, the color of my skin, the color of my hair, it all looks pretty accurate. If I had bad lighting, or say there was sun shining through the window and I didn't have my blackout curtains up, again, check the link within this video's description to find the blackout curtains too. But you can click this little triangular looking thing, and when you go to that, you can make adjustments. Typically what I'll do, if I have bad, let's see, there's all these exposure adjustments, and then there's kind of a combined. Now watch my face and watch my shirt. See, if I go way up, that gets really wonky. You go way down, it gets too dark. Right there at, where it is by default at 0. See, now that looks overexposed. It looks washed out as I go up. That's why I love, and see, I can just do edit, undo, modify color, put it back where it was. I could adjust just the whites right there if I wanted to. See, look at that. See that? And go down. Again, this is a matter of personal preference, but just going back to, let's do undo, modify, all of these at 0. That's why it's important to have a setup where you mark your camera placement, if you're using your camera in the field as well, where you mark the placement of your camera, your lighting. Use the voice command system like I did to turn your green screen on and off. And then if you minimize the amount of changes, if you've always got consistent lighting, you've always got consistent camera placement, you've always got consistent camera settings, it makes it really easy to reproduce those quality results for your studio every time you turn your equipment on. So you can see here, when you're watching this YouTube video, just how good the lighting is, how good the exposure I mean, I didn't have to make any adjustments. Just right out of the camera, it looks this good. So our next step, now that we've got solid black throughout, and we feel that the subject, me, in this example, looks good, didn't need any color correction. Now we're going to do a backdrop. So I've got a lot of footage here, and I know where these are, but I'm very well organized when I capture footage for my green screen purposes. So in this case, I know that day 5 of this particular adventure, I was in St. Bart's, and I was staying. This is a really nice boutique hotel. Obviously, I'm a very cost-conscious traveler. Got it very inexpensively, but one of the best places in St. Bart's, in my opinion, and we're going to use that as a backdrop. So what we can do is drag this down here. This particular clip, when I filmed it, it did have audio. So I'm going to want to mute that audio because we don't care about wind noise and birds chirping. If you wanted them, that would be fine. But since I don't, I'm just going to go select that clip, go volume to nothing, and there we go. Anytime you start recording with a tripod, there's usually a quick jerk when you press record. So what I do out of best practice is I cut out that initial thing. So when we watch this now, that background should look as if I'm standing in front of it. So again, that background has replaced those solid black areas, and it leaves this very convincing and very professional green screen effect. So the common misconception that a lot of people have is that to green screen you've got to pay a quote unquote professional. You got to pay them the big bucks, and they've got to come in with these fancy camera bags, or you've got to go to their studio with their fancy camera bags and their fancy lights. And the reality is that with a small investment, and again, this stuff's not cheap. When you expand this video's description and check the link, you'll find that it's not cheap. But if you're looking for professional results, regardless what your purpose for green screening may be, if you're looking for professional results, this is the equipment that I recommend, and this is why. I mean, I'm not, when I've spec'd out all the equipment that I use, I've gone through a lot of equipment. There was equipment that didn't work optimally. And there was equipment that, some of it did work optimally, but it's like, do I really need that high end of gear? Could I get by with something else? And this is after many years of chroma keying. At this point in time, August the 18th of year 2018, this is the optimal set of equipment. Everything from camera lens, audio recorder, lighting, voice controls, paint color. This is everything that I've pieced together to produce these results. And I feel that the results speak for themselves. I mean, I don't know. Tell me what you think. Any questions you have, feel free to drop me a message. If you found this video to be of value and you're wanting to assemble a green screen, don't feel that you've got to get all the gear at once. Start with the basics and then upgrade. Check the link within this video's description to find the paint color. I mean, that may be, if you don't have a wall that you could permanently paint, maybe you get a cheap piece of, you don't want it to have a pattern or anything on it, but a flat piece of very solid plastic type material, or a flat piece of plywood or something that you can paint with that paint and have a backdrop for your green screen, for your initial green screen practice, that's not a piece of fabric that could blow. Because with the fabric green screen, it does have the portability aspect. You can pop it up, you can pop it down. But even if it's taut, the effect of a fabric green screen, there's often a little bit of waving in that. And when you get the waviness in the fabric backdrop, it translates to a green screen effect that's less convincing. I mean, this looks like I'm standing in St. Bart's right now. And all that I did is I took my tripod there and I had it filming this segment. So I'm like, you know what, I'll use that as a green screen backdrop over and over, and I have. So, start with the basics. And, if this helped you, I'm an independent YouTuber, and this has all been the product of trial and error. So feel free to support my channel if you choose to do so. You can, again, expand this video's description. I've got a link where you can choose to support Iric Sky on Patreon. It helps me a lot. This my time and my money invested is, well, obviously it's not free. So, anything you may choose to do to support my channel, Patreon is great, but when you're buying your green screen gear, go to my website, go to the link within this video's description, and and find all of your gear there. That helps me a lot. So with all this being said, I hope this completely answers your questions. A lot of y'all have asked, how do I do that? And this is how I do it. And one final piece, and what I'm going to have to do now is I'm actually going to have to import this segment where I was showing the inside Final Cut Pro 10 steps. I'm going to have to add the final segment, and then we're going to go through the export. So what I'm going to do here in a few seconds is show you how I export my videos, my 4K Ultra HD videos, how I export them before I upload them to YouTube. So this is the final step of my green screen workflow. And this is how to export. Now again, I filmed everything in 4K Ultra HD. It's worth mentioning I did add a few things that I didn't reference previously. Pasted in my intro clip. Pasted in my outro clip. And what I do with those, that's a topic for another discussion, but I have those previously filmed, and that way I don't have to recreate them every time. And the only other change I made is here in the green screen. You can see briefly I cut out the green screen backdrop to where it would illustrate that I was indeed in front of a solid green wall. And to do that, all I did edit. I did trim blade. You can see I did a blade there, I did a blade there, and then I selected the portion of the clip between the blades and simply went here and unchecked keyer to remove that background, so just show my green wall. So to export for YouTube, this is what I do. So once I've confirmed I've got everything in here, now obviously this clip that I'm narrating right now is not in here yet. It's going to go right here, but I'm filming it, so I wanted to go ahead and film it. So I'd paste that in. Once I've confirmed my video project is complete, I've got my intro, my outro, everything looks perfect. Then all I do is I do File, Send to Compressor. And it may take just a moment. And once compressor appears, I do Add. I scroll down and I go to Video Sharing Services. And underneath Video Sharing Services, I select 4K. I click OK. And now all I do is start batch. And depending upon the size of your project and the speed of your Mac, this may take a considerable amount of time. Now this is a very long video. Actually, after I add this segment right here that I'm narrating now, it'll be upwards of 40 minutes. So this may take a while. Just wait for that to complete. Then you've got your exported file. Play it, make sure it works, and then upload it to YouTube. Hope this video is of value. Again, please support my channel if you choose to do so. You can expand this video's description to find all of the equipment, all of the, just everything that I've used within this video. And you can also find a link within this video's description to support me on Patreon. If you choose to do so, supporting Iric Sky on Patreon is a way to better enable my channel to continue to create more content such as this. And, I'm an independent channel, not part of a multi-channel network, so your support really means a lot. Appreciate your viewership, and be sure to subscribe. Oh, and click that like button and that little bell icon too, because if you subscribe and click that bell icon, you'll be notified whenever I post another video. Thanks for watching, and y'all have a good day. Hey y'all, Iric Sky here. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. It's viewers like you that enable my channel to continue to grow. Thank you.